As you saw earlier in the show, the Dragons went down to Puerto Rico for some outdoor competitions, but came back to host their Dragon Invitational meet, looking like the time in the tropics paid off big time. The Dragons would win the invite 1,152.5 points, with big days from Emily Pascavas on the boards, Aaron Sullivan, Madison Kuzi, and Aaron Fons having multiple event wins. Indoor track and field is underway, competing at the North Dakota State Bison Classic and the SDSU D2 Open in the last 2 weekends. At NDSU, the Tracksters had a great showing from Brian Huber, who set a new school record in the long jump with 24 feet 11 inches, the second best in all of D2 at that time, and that's a lot of individual wins for the Dragons early on this season, including quite a few at the South Dakota State Invite. Emily Mamenga had a pair of wins herself in the meet. No team scores were kept at either event. Since our last show on December 30th, the number 7 ranked men's basketball team built up a 16-game win streak after downing Upper Iowa and Winona on the road. The Dragons were led in scoring by NSIC North preseason player of the year Isaac Seeley, who put up 23 against the Peacocks and 25 against the Warriors. The Dragons returned home for a battle of the NSIC, unbeaten against the University of Mary. Both teams coming in at 8-0 in league play. Highlight of the Dragons was Tanner Kretschmann firing from all over. He'd lead all scorers with a career-high 25 points on the night, but the Marauders would finish very strong and eventually hand the Dragons their first conference loss of the season, 77-73. The next night, the Dragons looked to rebound against Minot State, and rebound they did, led by an unreal performance by senior Isaac Seeley, who did a little of everything, posting, shooting, and netting a career-high 38 points, as the Dragons took night 2 of the weekend, 97-89, over the Beavers of Minot State. Game 3 of 4 in a row at home to put the Dragons up against the Cougars of Sioux Falls, and the Dragons came out firing from 3 and inside. The Cougars would not back down, however. Here's Drew Gubert driving, popping, and hitting 2 of his team-leading 18 points. The hard drive here by Tyler Vaughn would answer, but it would be the Dragon defense that holds Sioux Falls to only 55 points, with a little Benoit time at the end as your Dragons take the victory, improving to 18-2 overall and 10-1 in NSIC play. Game 2 of the doubleheader was Southwest Minnesota State. Threes for everyone. Kretschmann, then Songolo. Everyone's hitting from downtown, including the nasty step back here by Tyler Vaughn. Just too much for the Mustangs to handle. The Dragons win 115-82. 5 Dragons put up over 15 points on the night. Then on the road with matchups against Crookston and Bemidji, the Dragons took care of business in both, scoring over 100 points in back-to-back games. Again with Dragons 5 over 15 points, including Seeley, Vaughn, Kretschmann, Songolo, and Ayub Booyah Ayub. Booyah would also help the Dragons hold off the Beavers of Bemidji, going 6 for 6 from 3, ending the night with 23 points, is his Dragons' career high. Back to the top with the Dragon women splitting on the road against Upper Iowa and Winona. Heather Stracey led the Dragons against the Peacocks with 25 points. The number 9 ranked Warriors stole a close one to hand the Dragons their 3rd loss of the year. Now let's head home for a weekend matchup against UMary and Minot. The post getting work done inside, rebounding and getting putbacks. Both Stracey and Hanovitt would score 14 points for the Dragons, helping gather the impressive 44 rebounds on the game to knock down the Marauders 75-58. Minot State the following night went to the guards, with scoring leader Morgan Bonasic taking over in transition, ending with 18 points. But a special night from West Fargo's Cassidy Thorson, who would come up big with 19 points for the Dragons, helping them get the 73-55 win over the Beavers. Back-to-back home weekends bring Sioux Falls to Nemzik, and it was a battle. There's Amber Podden earning an extra shot against Stracey, but Heather fired back with a big 3 to give the Dragons the lead. But Maddie Robson of Sioux Falls cans this one in the second half to put the Cougars ahead. Back and forth we go until the very end, and after 2 misses on the last possession, the Cougars would fall by just 1 point, 53-52. Dragons your winner. And the Mustangs on Saturday night, seniors taking over this one, starting with Stracey underneath. Then Morgan Bonasic getting the hoop and the harm, and one there. She'd lead all scorers with 17 points. Then back to the block, Stracey adds 2 more and one of herself for 14 points and 9 rebounds, but the defense was stiff, holding the Mustangs to just 45 points. On the road last weekend, after 4 wins at home, the Dragons suffer a loss at the hands of the Golden Eagles despite a double-double from Heather Stracey with 15 points and 11 rebounds. They turned it around against Bemidji, however, with 2 Dragons, Stracey and Bonasic, both scoring 21 points and returning to the win column, 75-67 over the Beavers. Into the mats, the Wrestlers headed to Newport News and Hampton, Virginia for 3 sets of duels, shutting out the Builders and pummeling the Panthers. But number 17, Kutztown, kicked us pretty good for just the second dual loss of the year. Then NSIC matches with nationally ranked number 14 Mankato and then Upper Iowa at number 8 in this very young Dragon squad reeling until it bounces back in convincing fashion over the Jimmies of Jamestown. Finally at home, but yet another nationally ranked NSIC foe to face in number 2 St. Cloud State. They would pile on the pins, first with Clint Poster getting the best of MSUM's Adam Blease. Then, for the third straight weight pin, St. Cloud State's Clayton Jennison pins Braden Kuntz. But the shutout stopped at the last match of the night. The lone bright spot was definitely MSUM's Blake Bosch at 133 pounds, who took the 2-0 decision over Jared Ofdahl. Bosch is now ranked number 2 in the nation with an overall record of 23-5.